Everybody, I'm Jack Hammer. Want to come on here today, do a little something different. Usually I do Niner Chatter on Tuesday nights. Things just a little bit busy this week, so decided to kind of change that around a little bit and come on here for a quick little 49ers mailbag show. I'll take some calls if you want to join in. The link is in the comment section. It's also in the description, so you're more than welcome to to call in. You know, right now the 49ers coming off a really bad loss from Sunday against Arizona. That was a game the 49ers should have been able to at least fare better. I don't know if I'm going to say that they should have won that game based on the way that they played. But they definitely should have had a better performance than what we saw. And what we saw on Sunday isn't really a whole lot different than what we've seen from this team for a while now. If you followed my content and seen the different streams that I'm doing on my own channel, as well as with Grant Cohen on his channel, and the various things that I'm writing over at the Santa Rosa Press Democrat, you know that I've been a little bit down on some of the things that have happened with this team this year. And what's crazy about everything is they're still in the playoff hunt. So as you guys are getting, some of you are joining in to call in, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of read through a couple of questions that I received this week. I sent out a tweet earlier a couple days ago asking for some questions for a mailbag. And one of the first ones that I received was from one of everybody's favorites on my channel that calls in a lot of times on those Niner Chatter calls. It's from Notorious Gav over in Wales. And he says, now that the season is technically over, will we see more of the rookies? How many more weeks do we have to wait to see Aaron Banks? And that's a really good question. It really highlights a lot of the issues that's kind of where the 49ers are right now, and the disconnect between where the team is and where the fans want them to be. What you're seeing is, the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan have said, we're not going to start playing guys just to play them, especially while we're still in the playoff race. And that's where the 49ers are currently. They're still only one game out. As bad as that game was last week, the 49ers went in that week with the possibility of jumping up to the 7th seed in the NFC playoffs. Didn't work out because of their loss, but everybody in front of them lost as well. And the only bad thing was that Arizona, who they were tied with, was able to jump ahead of them because they won, so they're at 4-4. So right now, the 49ers are in the same exact situation they were last week, in that they're only a game out of the playoffs. As crazy it sounds, at 3-5, and they have games against 3 of those teams that are ahead of them. They still have to play the Falcons, they still have to play against Minnesota, and they still have to play against Seattle. So technically, they're not out of it. And the way that this thing looks, and looking ahead at the schedules for not only the 49ers, but what the Seahawks have in front of them, and what the Panthers and Vikings and Falcons, with those 4 teams all have in front of them as well, it's really easy to see where the last team in the NFC, that 7th seed, can win maybe 8 games and finish 8-9 or be 9-8. It's going to be in that ballpark. And remember, last year it was the Chicago Bears, and they were 8-8. So they were a 500 team. That equates to 8-9 this year, pretty much, because there's no 500 anymore with an odd number of games. So the 49ers are still going to be in the hunt for this thing. And so as long as they're in that position and they feel like they have a chance to get to the playoffs, I don't think you're going to see a guy like Banks or these other rookies, or Trey Lance, for example, unless Jimmy Garoppolo really starts to play bad. Because although Jimmy Garoppolo misses plays here and there, all quarterbacks do that, unfortunately, and he's not playing bad enough to say that he's the problem. The 49ers didn't lose on Sunday because of Jimmy Garoppolo. They lost because 2 of their best offensive weapons fumbled the ball, and another one can't hold on to it. So from an offensive standpoint, that's some of the issues that they're dealing with. So to answer Gav's question, I think it's probably going to be maybe week 15, maybe 14, if that, even that early, before the 49ers are eliminated from the playoffs. But who knows? There might be a chance for Aaron Banks this week, because Daniel Brunskill is at right guard. He's struggling. They lost Mike McGlinchey for the season with that torn quad, so he's out. So they're going to have to figure something out at right tackle. Do they move Brunskill over, which it doesn't sound like that's what they want to do? That was a question that was asked of Shanahan yesterday. We'll see. But other than that, they don't have a lot of choices. They have Tom Compton, who is Tom Compton. Never started for any length of time with any team that he's been with. And they have Jalen Moore, who's a rookie who is kind of their swing tackle, but they really want him more to focus on the left side, and that's where he's pretty much practiced. He has done some reps at the right side. That's going back to me being at practice early in the season when they because they cross train these guys on both sides. So there's been some action there for him, but I'm not sure if that's a situation that's going to work out for Banks. But quite frankly, if you watched the way the Brunskill was in pass protection, just based off of the few clips that that I showed on my Twitter page, that he's not playing well, especially in pass protection. He's really struggles. So we'll see how that all plays out. What they do for Monday night, I think we'll start to get a little bit of a feel for it tomorrow when the team gets back onto the practice field, and we can see what they're doing there. So that's that piece. But I do have some folks on the line, so let's go ahead and before I get to the next mailbag question, we'll bring them on here. And how's it going, Korea 49er?
I'm doing good. How are you, Jack?
I'm good.
Disappointing game on Sunday. I was expecting that with the injuries the Cardinals had, that the 49ers would compete a little bit more and make it a closer game. I think they made Colt McCoy look like 8th-year Tom Brady, and they made Chase Edmonds kind of look. I can't remember who the running back was for Arizona who started, but made him look like Walter Payton at times with some of those runs he was having. So, but got a question for you about the direction of the franchise for you, Jack.
Sure.
At this current time, this franchise looks like a 5-alarm fire that's not going out anytime soon. Mm-hmm. They're devoid of leadership. The coach Kyle has way too much power in personnel decisions, and some of those, and he's taking on way too much decision-making power during games. I mean, he's trying to adjust for defenses, try to look at tendencies and call for and help with play calls. I think that's way too much for him. And John Lynch, at times he can't. He talks way too much, and I don't know what Parag is doing. And during a bad season, Jed wants to raise season ticket prices for next year when this team may still be in the reloading process.
Yeah, I think. Well, but I do think that they need to change their structure a little bit. I think that Kyle Shanahan needs to have the personnel side taken from him. I think he needs to. I mean, head coaches, regardless if the general manager is the one who makes the final decisions, they're going to have some input, right? Even if it doesn't matter who the head coach is. Like down in let's use Sean McVay for example, right? So in Los Angeles, Sean McVay is the head coach, offensive coordinator, pretty much. He runs the offense. But they have Les Snead down there running the draft. But that doesn't mean that even though Snead is the guy and he has the control over the roster, it doesn't mean that there's not some interaction with McVay on draft picks. And that's more of what the structure needs to be at the 49ers right now. It just doesn't feel like – it feels like when it comes to the power that Shanahan has over the personnel, that's the part that I struggle with.
Yeah. I don't believe any coach should take on that much power and responsibility. The only coach I could think of who could handle anything near that's Bill Belichick, and we can always give him the benefit of the doubt since he's done so much during his time as the New England coach. But I know that he gets draft picks wrong and, bringing in players not working out too. So
yeah, but it's different. It's different with Belichick though, because he's not, I don't think he's as involved with the defensive play calling as Kyle Shanahan is, right? With the offensive play calling for the 49ers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit different there. That's the only thing. And I know that it became a thing yesterday about Kyle Shanahan getting involved with defensive play calls, but I think that's being way overstated as to the impact that that has. That's just part of being the head coach is to whether you're calling offense an offensive head coach like Shanahan or a defensive head coach like say Mike Tomlin back in he probably doesn't even isn't even in that role, but a defensive head coach, whatever it is, you're gonna have input on the other side of the ball at times. It doesn't mean that you're having it's more of like, hey, in this situation, isn't this what we talked about during the week? Or this is a situation. It doesn't seem like we're getting to him. You might want to call a blitz here, and I think that's when Kyle Juszczyk said that about about Kyle Shanahan helping the 49ers and helping them call plays or getting ready, or even in game. That's not something. That part of it I don't worry about. For me, it's more of the personnel side, the in-game stuff. If you have a head coach that can't help the defense out every once in a while, or vice versa, what are you doing? I'm not trying to, and I'm not saying that to you. I'm just saying that in general. It's like, why? What are you doing if your head coach can't help out the other side of the ball? That at that point, you might as well just have Mike Singletary working on one side of the ball or being your CEO type, right? You understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Am I being clear?
I understand what you're saying. I just think Kyle should do a little bit more delegating. I understand to give input as needed or on occasion, but I just think he should take a little bit off his plate and allow D'Amico to do his thing. And then if Mike McDaniel needs a little bit of help here and there, I have no problem with that. But it just looks like last time I saw him at his press conference, he looked like he's aged another 20 years since this is what that job does to those guys. So
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, and I'm not disagreeing with you because I agree with you that he needs to have things taken off his plate and maybe delegate, but the delegation really needs to be the personnel side, the coaching side, because that part of it is where I think it's hurting them the most. It's the getting the guys in, and the way that he's managing them is a little off, but that's not a delegation thing. From a delegation standpoint, he was really clear this week, for example, with when he was asked about the cornerback Josh Norman, who lost his mind and decided he was going to, cost the 49ers a 15-yard penalty, that he, didn't even know what was going on the field. He figured it out, and that whole decision-making process of whether or not he got it back into the game was on the defensive side. He said, oh, get him out of the game to cool off. That's a head coaching thing. But as far as him going back in the game, he left that up to his coordinators. It's not like if there was any point in the second half where he's like, hey, get Josh back in the game and do X, Y, and Z, but I'm 100% with you on the delegation when it comes to personnel. I'm just not there with the game management stuff, although I think he does struggle with game management.
yeah, I understand what you're saying. So,
Okay.
one last point is hopefully Mike McGlinchey will have a full recovery. We may give him a lot of grief and stick, but that is a pretty serious injury he suffered, and he may never, depending on how bad it is, may never be able to play again in the NFL. So,
Yeah.
and this creates another giant hole that was not anticipated for the remaining parts of this season, and then maybe for next season and beyond.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hopefully, and that's the guy who gets kicked around a lot. And I know that I get on him at times, and there's other people that do as well. He's really played at a decent level this year. I think he's only given up 2 sacks through the first half of the season. They're at the halfway point on Sunday night, on Monday night, but through the first 8 games, I think he's given up 2 sacks or some number like that. And I know he's struggled, and he's not, he's not really what you'd hope to have as your first round top 10 draft pick. But the drop off from him, we're going to see. I think we're going to see some of it starting on Monday night. But I'm with you. Hopefully he comes back full strength.
Do you? One last question is: do you see the 49ers beating the Rams? Because I see Aaron Donald and Von Miller licking their chops to get at our offensive line. I
Yeah,
see
to
it
be
as I see it as maybe at least a 10-point loss. Hopefully, it
oh
doesn't
yeah,
happen, but
no, I could see this as a blowout for the Rams. I can make a case for the 49ers winning this game. Uh, I just don't. If I was going to Vegas to bet on this game, I would be betting on the Rams winning by more than 10 points. But I could be, that's just my feeling on it based off what we saw last week. And last week's performance was about as bad as we've seen from a 49ers team since what, maybe 1994 when they gave up 40 points to the Eagles in the game when Steve Young went after Seifert on the sideline. I mean that game was bad. It was bad all around. The tackling, the complete effort was was not good.
yeah, agree
So
with you. Agree with you there. So,
yeah.
thanks, Jack.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for
No
calling
problem.
in. Yep. I'll talk to you later. All
Yep.
right. All right. All right. So let's jump over real quick. Let me get this big block off of here. Uh, I did have a comment that I wanted to hit up real quick, and let's see. Oh, it was Christian. Thank you, Christian. He says, keep up the great work. Love your content and insight. So thank you. Appreciate that. Bino asked Beno, I'm not sure how you say your name. Uh, how do I call in? There's a link on the side, and all that I say is if you do want to call in, just know that it's going to take a couple minutes because I have some other folks on here that are calling in as well. We'll try to keep it short and sweet. We got about another 45 minutes to go before I got to jump off tonight. Let me jump over to the next question, and then we'll get uh, to the next caller. And it was from 49ers for Life. Says, at this point in the season, what do the 49ers do with their secondary? Duct tape and prayer have not been sufficient so far. Maybe some addition by subtraction. And on that one, I'm not sure there's a lot that the 49ers can do at this point in the season. There's not. It's not like there's any defensive backs that are on the market that are going to come out and you know make you excited that they're going to be joining your team. At least I don't think there are. The trade deadline's passed, so you're stuck with free agents or guys that get released, and so those guys aren't going to be released. Uh, the one move that I think that they can make and that they should make is going back to Diamolo Renor and having him play opposite of Emmanuel Mosley. He looked good. I mean, I know he had some. He looked fine, is I guess the word that I should say. I don't think he was really good. He wasn't bad. He was just fine. He was solid. In the start against Detroit, he played well, but that was Detroit and Jared Goff, and he struggled a little bit with the deep ball in Philadelphia, but for the most part was okay. And the thing that's the craziest about that is that okay, I kind of understand Josh Norman coming in and being the guy, um, but what I don't get is if once Josh Norman gets hurt, you're going to go to Drake Kirkpatrick. He's gone. Diamante Lenore's gone from being your starter. We already knew he was your backup because it was supposed to be Verrett and Mosley, but Mosley was hurt week one, which is why Lenore started. So you were we know that he was your third best at that point. He was your third best outside corner in week one. He was your third best corner in week two. Now he's your second best because of the injury to Verrett. And now he's not only behind Norman, but he's behind Drake Kirkpatrick, the guy that wasn't even in your building during training camp, and you just pulled them off the street. And everything I've seen of Drake Kirkpatrick on the field when the ball's gone his direction so far has been really negative, from the poor play on the ball against Indianapolis at the end of the game when he got sent in to actually getting run over uh, by the third string running back from Arizona on Sunday in the halfway through the third quarter for the last Arizona touchdown of the game. And the only thing that I can think of, and the only reason that I can think that he's fallen this far out of grace with the coaching staff, is his mistake in coverage at the end of the Green Bay game. He had a couple, those two, the first one wasn't on him because it was on their side of the field, but the long completion at the end of the game that set up the field goal to Devontae Adams, where he it looks like he didn't know the coverage or what have you, or he's just playing way off. I don't know what he was doing there. So it's definitely a bad play on his part. That's the only thing reason that I can think of that he's fallen from your third best corner to not even suiting up the last 2 weeks. So just another thing to think about, maybe something for you guys to tell me where I'm wrong or if I'm right or what your thoughts are on that. So another topic for tonight. Uh, but as we're going through that, let me jump over to our another caller here real quick. Big Waruna in the house. How you doing, Waruna?
I'm doing good. How are you, Jack?
I'm good. See, I don't have to use the graphic for you because you just have the. You don't even want to show your face, so I'm good with you.
No, I thought since we are going to cut the face, just save the data. Data in the sense sometimes internet acting weird up probably in the late hours of the day.
Yeah, it's sure, especially with mine. My internet. I got that Wi-Fi from. I don't know. It's like a calling card Wi-Fi over here. So bad.
Yeah, so some yes, it takes up.
Yeah.
Uh, so I was thinking about in terms of the Kyle Shanahan situation. I can understand how depressing it is, but at the same time, but I think part of the problem is the people that he trusted does not get the job done. For example, like Kittle or Ayuk is not the one he's trust at the moment. Even Debo with his prop balls and Jimmy, of course, because you already said it because when the game is on the line, we have to make big plays. Still, Jimmy would miss the receivers down the field who are open. But Colt McCoy made better plays than Jimmy in terms of big plays, right? So, do you think? Right now I'm like, okay, get Kai Shannon out of San Francisco, but do you think he deserves more time to maybe rebuild with new set of players that who can really get the job done? With we don't know what Trey Lance might be turned into, but at least, do you think he deserves a chance to prove himself?
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not of the mind of firing Kyle Shanahan yet. Uh, they're 3-5. They've lost a couple bad games. They're playing about the same level as they did last year. Their defense is the problem with the Flyers right now is their defense is giving up more points than they did last year, and their offense is scoring fewer points than they did a year ago. Uh, and they're I think that the loss of Lafleur and Sala, those two in particular, took a big hit on Shanahan because those were guys that really helped him out, especially Lafleur. So I think that Shanahan maybe is a little bit more involved on the offensive side in the game planning than he was in the past. I mean, he was involved with the game planning, but he used to have Lafleur and McDaniels be able to put the plans together. They one put the run plan, the other put the pass plan. They all came together and formulated it all together. I don't know who or if anybody's replaced Lafleur on the coaching staff. So I think there's a little bit more that's on his plate there. And like I told Korean 49er a couple minutes ago, I think for me it's getting the personnel stuff off of his plate and letting him just be the coach. I think that's where they need to go with this. And have been talking about this isn't a new comment from me, is that the change that you need to make, the first change that you need to make is you need to get, if you're going to make a change, you're making a change with the general manager. So it's John Lynch. You move on from John Lynch and you get a guy in there who's a stronger general manager and takes control of the personnel department and the player acquisition piece and lets Shanahan more or less just kind of be the coach. And obviously, you let him get his hands in there a little bit, but you've got to I think back him away from that if you can. I think that's really what needs to happen. But I'm not ready to fire him. If Kyle Shanahan really wanted Trey Lance and they're telling us the truth with that, and I don't have any reason to really believe that he isn't based on all of the things that I've read from of him over the last, going back to January when they made the trade, when they finished the season and they said that they were going to keep Garoppolo, and the whole way that this whole thing played out over the offseason. I think that they traded up to 3 knowing that who they were going to pick and that it was going to be Lance. and I think he was on board with it more than some people think. Um, and it's just a lack of patience on our part that he to be getting upset with the fact that Lance hasn't played more than he has. Did I answer your question there?
Yes, yes, true. Uh, yeah, the only other question is, I think this is something beyond what you call our control, or we can't do anything about this. Because fundamentally, do you believe that with Jed York, this organization is have some problems? Because we are just trying to, we are basically, it's like we are trying to fix some issues at the second floor, but the
Mm-hmm.
problem is at your basement. So either you have to basically destroy everything, dug out, and build from the very bottom. I mean, build from the scratch, but it's not possible. I mean, owner is not going to fire himself. But
Yeah, yeah. No, you're right. The owner's not going to fire himself because there's no reason to. I think you're on the right track, and I heard this. I actually heard that. I was listening to Grant and Vish talk today, and I thought they hit it well right on the head. And uh, this whole thing starts. They're so reactionary. They they see one issue. It's kind of like you said in the way that they see a fire on the third floor. They go to put that one out, and then they decide that they're going to build a fire department on the third floor though to make sure they don't have to worry about it again. And then oops, there's a fire. There's a tree fell over, so now they're going to take out all the trees in the building because that's going to fix it. You know what I'm saying? I'm being really vague and probably silly
yeah,
with what I'm
I
saying,
totally
but
understand that. Yes.
that's what they've done. They screwed up they've screwed up the Yorks have screwed up the coaching situation ever since they took over the 49ers. They fired a coach after getting to the playoffs and after having the biggest win ever, come from behind or tied for the biggest come from behind win ever in a playoff game, and Steve Mariucci. They fire him, and then they think that they go out and they hire I can't remember his name right now. He was that bad. The guy from college that had coached at up in Seattle and with the University of Miami, and he lasts for 2 years. 7-9
You mean
1 year,
Chip
two.
Kelly?
No, he's later. I can't think of his name right now, but he had been up at Oregon State too. And they hire him and they go 7-9 the first year, 2-14 the next year. Then they bring in um, Nolan, and that's when they bring in Nolan and they flub that one. That's right around the time the Nolan hire. Right around that point is when Jed takes over, and they fire Mike Nolan midway through the season. They have Mike Singletary as the interim head coach. They have a pretty good finish to the season. Kyle Shanahan or Jed York, being 27, 28 at that time, gets all excited because the team's winning and goes ahead and hires Mike Singletary in the locker room after the final game of the season. Dennis Erickson, thank you. That's who I was missing. So Dennis Erickson had come before Nolan, and then he hires Singletary, and Singletary, they actually were starting to build up a decent roster by that point, but he just wasn't a head coach. He was Mike Singletary was your ultimate CEO. I'm only going to focus on one side of the ball, because he had no clue what was going on the offensive side of the ball. The poor guy, when I talk about the quarterback situation and what I don't want to see happen with Kyle Shanahan here, a lot of that has to do with what I saw happening throughout the time that Singletary was here with Alex Smith, where he just every couple of weeks it was a different quarterback because they weren't winning, and it was like, if I just change the quarterback, that's going to change all the problems that we're having here. And they finally get smart. They finally catch a break and they get Harbaugh, and they go to the playoffs 3 years in a row, no losing seasons, and they fire him. And then they fire him, and then they fire him to hire Jim Tomsula. What? Right? And then after Jim Tomsula, it's Chip Kelly, and it's just a mess. And then they bring in the group that they have now, and I this actually goes along with one of my mailbag questions that I wrote about today, and it had to do with the question was, do you think the that Jed regrets firing Harbaugh? And I said that he definitely should. Since the Fort York family took over the 49ers, he's their most successful head coach. He was 44-19-1. They ran him out of town in favor of Trent Baalke. And really what happened was following that 2016 season with Chip Kelly, the organization was at such a bad point right there that York needed to do something to generate excitement from the fan base. And what was that excitement that he needed to generate? He needed to get a coach that they all believed in, right? And he went after. It made sense from that standpoint to hire Kyle Shanahan, because Kyle Shanahan just had a great season in Atlanta. He was the shiny toy. He was the top guy on everybody's list because of the one season that he just had in Atlanta. Forget about all the fact that he'd only had 3 good seasons in 9 years at that point, and he just his offense just choked away or played a big part in choking away the Super Bowl with his game management at the end of that. But they bring him in, and everybody gets excited about it because they've got this offensive genius in Kyle Shanahan, and that is that's Jed York to a T. A guy who's doing what he thinks it's going to take to make money and be successful without really doing his full due diligence, and he's got to win over the fan base and everything like that. I mean, the biggest issue with Jed York is the 49ers. He's running a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and he's never even ran a snack shack. Right? Are you still there?
Yes, yes. I was listening. Yes,
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we're together on that,
yes,
and
yes.
he had never run anything. He'd worked for 1 year in a job that he didn't like, and then the parents hire him to come and learn how to run the football team. And now he's running a multi-billion-dollar billion-dollar company with no background. That'd be like me all of a sudden becoming the CEO of Google tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true.
And
Because
we
that's
wonder
what,
why the 49ers are so off the rails.
yeah, that's what I thought as well. Because uh, Jim Harbaugh is, I think, when he was hired, he was like 47 years old. He was a college coach who
Mm-hmm.
used to have, like, basically, what's the correct word? Have the authority over his players. And you have an owner who is just like 29, 30. So for him, he's like a kid, just another kid who doesn't know much about football. So he's like, okay, I respect that you are the owner. Technically, you are the owner, but you don't know nothing about football. So let me run the operation. So, because Ryan Sakamoto, the beast writer. So once in a conversation, he told me that he worked at the building at the time, in a public conversation actually, and on his channel. He said that the battle between the owner and the head coach, it was ugly. It was really ugly. So that, I think that was part of the reason why Jetio likes so much Kyle Shanahan, because practically they are the same age. They understand each other. I mean, how do you call it? Like, maybe the same generation, so they understand each other. So he might be thinking, okay, eventually he will get there. So he's my friend, which is
Mm-hmm.
really bad for the business, because I feel like, because I read a very interesting point in Bill Belichick's autobiography. You can answer me that. During their time, probably that book was published in 2018. Let's say at that time it was like 17, 18 seasons. Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, how many dinners do you think they had together? I mean, just two of them.
Bill Belichick and Tom Brady.
Yes.
I don't know if I would say that they ever had dinner together.
Yes. They never had dinner together.
I,
So it was basically just a business relationship, just a business relationship. That's
yeah.
how he operated.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I know that Bill Belichick and Tom Brady worked together in the building, and that they met one on one, because I remember seeing that during, I don't know, some kind of documentary or something on ESPN, or
Okay.
some channel. So I know that they had their time together where they worked together, right, to
Yeah.
discuss the game plan or what have you. But yeah, I don't think that you'd see him out at the restaurant with each other though.
Yeah. So that's how they manage the because I thought about this. For example, if I let's say for some reason I get opportunity to work for an NFL organization and it's Patriots, I would never go for that job because I don't want Bill Belichick as my what do you call it, the manager or my boss. But if I am the owner of an NFL team, I would hire Bill Belichick without hesitation because that guy wins. So I
Hmm.
think that's a part that Jet York is unable to understand. He thinks maybe the feelings that he has about his head coach, the relationship that he has with his head coach, maybe the dressing style or whatever it is matter more than the record at the end of the day. I think he's not a as an owner, he's not matured enough. I think we like to believe that he has matured, so he won't do the same mistakes with Jim Harbaugh again. But I don't think he has matured enough, as you said, also that to handle the NFL team, to get them to a team that can consistently win.
Absolutely. I think that's and that was Jim Harbaugh, and that's the type of coach that I mean, when they hired Jim Harbaugh, I knew that they were going to win games. When they hired Kyle Shanahan, I wasn't so sure, just because you just look at his record. I mean, I
Yeah.
understand as an offensive coordinator, you don't get to determine wins and losses, right? Because you're only handling one side of the ball, so
Yes.
all you can do is your side. But the one side of the ball that he dealt with wasn't even really all that successful. I mean, he was an offensive coordinator for 9 years, I think it was, and only 3 times in 9 years were his offenses even able to score in the top half, the top 16 in the league in points. And that just didn't scream anything to me. At least with Harbaugh, you knew that he had been successful, and he'd won games, as over, and built up Stanford from where they were to a team that won a BCS playoff game. It wasn't a playoff game, but a BCS bowl game. Um, and you knew what he was bringing to the table, and his style fit with the team. Whereas the Shanahan thing didn't. And again, it's one of those situations, kind of like you said, where York wants to be friends with everybody, right? He wants to have a nice.
Yes.
Everybody wants to have a cozy work environment to go to every day, but
Yeah.
football's different, and I understand. And and you,
Yes.
and it's not like. And if you don't like it, then go sit in your office and do business stuff, and let your football people
Yes.
argue while you go do your
Yeah.
business stuff. The 49ers would have been way better off if that's what he had done, instead of chasing him out. And I'm sure that he had people in his ear that were telling him uh, different things. Uh, just It's just a bad move all around.
Yeah. That's the
Mhm.
thing. Because one thing I believe is why Kyle Shanahan, I mean, I mean, hyped up to that level after the Super Bowl was the, I mean, of course, there is one thing, his father is Mike Shanahan, but the other reason is if you think about it, the way that Super Bowl played out. Remember, if it was, I mean, think about like this. If it was like Patriots and Falcons, they were like going neck to neck. They score first, Falcons score first, 7-0, then Patriots score 7-0, going back and forth, and eventually Patriots won that game. Nobody would talk about that Super Bowl by now. We are still talking about that Super Bowl because the way that events played out. So people, I think, probably might have felt like, okay, Kyle Shanahan did what he could do to win that game, but he defense bailed out. I mean, sorry, not bailed out. Defense
Blew it.
blew it. Yes,
Hmm.
defense blew it.
Yes.
So this guy is a genius. This guy had a 21-3 lead
Hmm.
against Patriots, against Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, the probably the most genius defensive mind in the football. So what if you hand over him a team? He will do wonders. I think that might have been a part of the thinking that Jed York and others came up with, because the way that Super Bowl played. If it was just another regular Super Bowl, back and forth, we would not probably think about Kyle Shanahan in that way. I think that might have been one reason too.
Yeah, I think, and you're right. I think people looked at that Super Bowl and Shanahan, the defense for Atlanta definitely blew it. Right? They definitely blew it. But let's not act like the Falcons offense did them any favors or Kyle Shanahan did them any favors. Right? And I think what happened is they saw that loss and the way that it played out, and it just played out. And so many people believed in Kyle Shanahan, and even people now who are, I think maybe it's probably there's some folks on here who have really soured, on Twitter, 49ers Twitter, who have really soured on Kyle Shanahan, or around the 49ers fans in general, who have really soured on Kyle Shanahan, who, when he first came on to the scene, would have defended him like crazy. The way that Super Bowl came out is that being the defense's fault. But quite frankly, you've got the ball on like the 22-yard line. Run the ball, kick the field goal,
Yes.
go up 11, and it doesn't matter what your defense does. Your defense can let them score another touchdown, and you're still going to get the ball back with a lead. And I understand that in Kyle Shanahan, this just came up over the summer again, right? This conversation,
Yeah.
this situation just came up with Shanahan and McVay,
Podcast.
this yeah, on the podcast, and he still defends it to this day, his play calling.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
McVay understands why I can understand everything that he's saying makes sense from the fact that, hey, if this is executed, this is a big play. Okay, that's cool. But when you're at the end of the game and you have a chance to just put the game away, when you have a field goal kicker as good as Atlanta had that year, you don't worry about that. You do what Jim Harbaugh would have done in that situation, and you run the ball into the center of the lane 3 times. Go ahead and lose 3 yards. That's fine. You're doing 3 things there. Well, I don't know how many things you're doing, but you're taking time off the clock. Either taking time off the clock or you're forcing New England to use timeouts.
Yes.
And the last thing you're doing is you kick the field goal, and now you're up by 11. Even if you miss the field goal, even if you've played it smart at that point, even if you missed the field goal because you've either taken time off the clock or you've taken away timeouts, and they don't do that, and we see what happens, and then they don't ever, it just doesn't work out for him, and it's just crazy that he still defends it. And
Yeah. That's true.
anyway,
I think that is part of his thinking as well. Overall, if you take many examples, when it comes to the situations that he has to take his own decision, he sometimes does not have the confidence. The latest thing is now Jared Goff will be most probably benched by Lions.
uh huh,
I mean, imagine that situation. Sean
uh huh,
McVay, he took the decision, okay, I'm not going to stick with this quarterback. I'm going to move away. And I mean, eventually proved it was the correct decision. And
mm-hmm.
now, without a good head coach and team around, good players around him, Jared Goff cannot even win a one game. His record is 0-8.
Right,
So Kyle Shanahan had the same opportunity 2 years in a row. I don't blame him for not pulling the trigger for Tom Brady situation, because that was too complicated at the time. We didn't know that Tom Brady is going to win the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. But at least
Hmm.
Again, he had another opportunity, but he still did not do it. And this season is going nowhere. You are not, I mean, you are not going to the playoffs, or you're not developing your young quarterback as well. So I think that's part of the reason. I mean, there are many examples, right? Even the Super Bowl that we lost, the first half, he could have taken that timeouts and try to score. But after the game, he said, I did not want to hand over the ball to Patrick Mahomes, so I tried to play it safe. So he's doing the same thing even this season in couple of times, not trying to score when you have the opportunity, especially at the halftime when you are trailing. So I think there
Can
are
I can I
some kind of
disagree? Can I
yeah,
disagree with you really quick to end
yeah,
this
sure,
to end
sure,
your call
sure.
real quick?
Yes, you
I'm gonna
should.
disagree with you on the end of the Super Bowl halftime because this is something that
Hmm.
I've heard brought up a lot.
Yeah,
The only reason that they don't score there is they took the shot. They took the shot and they hit the shot. The reason they don't score is because George Kittle gets called for pushing off on the DB. But they hit the shot.
yes.
They hit the shot and you get the call. I think he played that correctly in that you don't
Hmm.
put your DB. It's Patrick Mahomes. You don't want to give him the ball there. I feel like he played it correct. That's an issue where I think the penalty's a little ticky tack, but it's a penalty. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just I don't I only disagree with you there because I don't feel like that one was a
Okay,
bad choice because that's the opposite.
I
That's
understand.
that's the opposite of the Super Bowl problem, right? That's
Yes,
he's not
yes,
being
yes.
over aggressive. The Super Bowl was Kyle being over aggressive offensive coordinator Kyle, the one when he
Mm.
was with Atlanta,
Atlanta,
and
yes.
the Super Bowl against Kansas City was Kyle being head coach Kyle making the right call, getting the big play. That was the best throw of Jimmy Garoppolo's career, by the way. And it gets called back because of a pass interference call. But
Yeah, yeah,
yep.
that's true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But okay. So anyway, but I got to jump off because I only have a couple more minutes, and
Okay, sure.
I got my buddy Mike on the line, and then somebody I haven't had a
Okay,
chance to talk
cool.
to before. But I appreciate you
Okay,
calling in,
cool.
Maruna, and it's always fun to talk to you.
Okay, Hector. Nice talking to you, Jack.
All right, have a
Okay,
good night.
bye.
Bye bye. All right, so that was a fun call. Let me jump on to the. I got two other on the line, so let's go ahead and do those real quick. And there we go. Mike, you
Yep,
there?
I'm here.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I wanted to talk about what I would like to see. The first thing I would like to see happen with the 49ers is to
Okay.
go after a new GM,
Hmm.
somebody that, well, two things actually. A new GM, somebody from maybe Pittsburgh, New England, Buffalo, or the Saints.
Yep.
Them are probably the best drafting teams out there as
Okay.
far as they don't miss too many of them.
Okay.
They get a lot of all pro bowlers when they pick. And the other thing is, I wouldn't mind seeing us hiring Peyton Manning as a
Okay.
coach
Hmm.
to get in your face, grab your face mask, scream at you, do what he does best when you screw up. We
Okay.
have a leader issue. We need a leader. Why not hire a guy just to do that? Peyton Manning, I mean, all you see on YouTube is Peyton Manning getting into his offensive line, screaming at them, screaming at the fans in the stadiums, to shut up, when he's calling a
Hmm.
play and stuff like that. Just you need somebody like that. We have nobody like that right now.
Right.
And
Right.
that's a suggestion. I mean, you could get an a head coach or whatever, and make it Peyton Manning. He's very intelligent. He knows the game. He can be just quality control, basically. You know, somebody
That's not
like
a bad idea. That's a name that hasn't been thrown out there. I mean, if Peyton Manning's willing to come in and be a quarterback coach for you or something like that,
yeah,
then
quarterback coach, yes.
go do it.
Slash quality control, yes.
Uh
You
huh.
know, but I mean, we do need ultimately a GM that's got a backbone that will take control of the team, and you need that more so than a head coach that controls everything. A great GM creates a better team than a great head coach. You'd like to have both, but obviously we don't have that.
Yeah.
So, you know, Any thoughts on who you would like to see as a GM? As far as I want somebody that can draft.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Somebody
I
that
don't know.
knows how to write contracts that we can get out of also.
I'm gonna rip off what I heard Vish say today, which was Jeff Ireland from New Orleans, and I think that's a guy that they could get if he wants to do it
A
because
great drafter.
right, because it's a promotion for him, right?
Yeah.
But that's a guy who's going to have control, and I think that's whoever they bring in is going to have to be somebody with control. You're going to be giving him more control than Lynch has
that.
now.
We need that.
I agree. And I'm not very good with this. This will be something I'll probably, I'll have to take a look at and pay attention to the people that are smarter than me and kind of what they're saying out there.
Well, see, I was typing online, who's the best teams as far as drafting the last 10 years and stuff. New Orleans Saints names always pop up. New England's, Buffalo's, Pittsburgh's. That's the teams that pop up in every list that I've looked at on there.
Yeah.
As far as on the web and stuff. And that's what we need. We need something from them, Yeah. I mean, how many Pro Bowlers has New Orleans Saints drafted and all pros? They drafted a ton in the last 10 years. They always drafting top guys, I mean, that's why they're always in the playoffs too, So
hey, man, the fact that they're a team that's won even when their starting quarterback has been hurt, right? When they didn't have
Teddy Bridgewater ripped off 5 in a row last year, didn't he?
Right, and even this year they're still kind of hanging around in the playoffs, right? Mm-hmm. Even with everything that's going on, I think they're still leading the South. So, and the South isn't anything great, any great shakes or anything like that, but they're leading their division. So yeah, that would definitely be a good starting point.
Yeah. More so than getting ready to coach, just get a leader, somebody that's going to take control of everybody. Right. That's why I mention Peyton Manning too. I wouldn't be afraid to have Peyton Manning, like when Josh Norman out there doing that, go out there and just grab him by his face mask and drag him off the field, send him to the locker room.
Yeah. No, you read there's a lot of risks when you kind of do that kind of stuff. But no, I hear what you're saying as far as the discipline. I don't know about necessarily doing it in that situation,
but Manning could get away with something like that.
he might be able to. He might be able to.
He has enough respect around the league. I think he could do it. That or Mike Singletary again. What he did to Vernon Davis. Get your ass to the locker room. Don't come back out.
Well, that's why. Yeah. We don't need Mike Singletary again. But I hear what you're saying.
No. I don't want him again. But I just want somebody that's just take control of the team and be voiceable about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, Mike. I got to jump on to one more caller before I head out. But thanks for calling in.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. One more, and it's that Niner guy. How you doing?
Jack, what's going on, man? I've been meaning to call in for a long time. I genuinely like your stuff, man. So just congrats on getting everything going.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, man. So I joined late, but I'm guessing everyone's saying, fire John Lynch. That's the saving grace of this organization. But but here's my question. Do we have any confidence that anything's going to change? Because, the Niners' problems are so systemic. You go 11 years of drafting hurt guys. It's not just John Lynch. It's bulky. It's going all the way back. The Niners really banked their great success off 3 drafts. The Staley Willis draft going way, way back. I mean, even you could argue Alex Smith, Frank Gore, but Alex Smith was kind of a dumpster fire for 5 years. But that draft was huge. Then you had the 2011 draft that was great for a couple of years and kind of fell apart. And then you had the Bowman, Yapati, Davis draft. Those were 3 impactful drafts. Go back through our history. We are one of the worst drafting teams, and it's not even close.
Yeah, I mean, unless you buy into what PFF put out back in February, where they had a whole bunch of different things, and they had it where the 49ers were in the top half of everything. With the way
But it's marketing though, because I mean the NFL has a better product when the Niners are better. That's just how I feel about it.
Sure, I think the deal with the way that PFF did it though is the Niners are getting bonus points because of the guys that are the later picks that play well for them. So, like the George Kittle, Kittle for an example, right? Or Fred Warner becoming an all pro when he was a third rounder instead of a first and second round guy.
No,
Or,
that's really fair. But I
mhm,
mean, we're really talking about one player a draft.
sure,
That's less than 20% of your picks.
true.
That's the fire zone.
Yeah.
But it's not just Lynch. It's how they stop and evaluate talent. I mean, it's a systemic problem because it's the same issues we've seen from even Balky and going back to when they went to Chip Kelly. They don't value talent right, or they value something so strongly for a little while and then they just abandon it, and then they're super good at one position of the field and then terrible at the rest. I mean, how devalued has the secondary been here in the last 11 years?
Oh,
It's
the secondary's
hilarious.
been, the secondary's been devalued for even longer than that, I think.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I mean, but
Uh-huh.
I mean, they literally, I don't understand what they're thinking, that they just keep banging their head against the wall and expect things to just magically change because they had 4 seasons in 11 years where they were good. The
Yeah.
odds point to the opposite. And what they don't tell you about those 3 of those 4 years you're really good, you probably, they had like maybe like 3 or 4 guys who are Hall of Famers. One who's in the Hall of Fame, Randy Moss, at the end of his rope, so that doesn't really count. But like Frank Gore, Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman, he's not going to be a Hall of Famer, but at the time he was playing like a Hall of Famer. Alden Smith. What are they thinking? I just don't understand it. And I don't understand why fans are saying, "Oh, fire Lynch and we're fine." That's not
Right.
the issue. The issue runs deep.
It does. It definitely, it runs from the top. It starts at the top, but you can't fire him, unfortunately, right? So the only way that you can do is, I think that's why
Can't
they
fire
say,
owners.
yeah, you can't fire Jed unless his parents decide that they're gonna get rid of him, because he isn't the owner, right? He's just the guy. He's the acting owner.
Very
His
true.
parents actually own the team. So unless his parents want
Right.
to fire Jed, then we're stuck with him. So that leaves you with general manager and head coach is the only things that you can change, and that's why I think that the reason that so many people, myself included, are saying go ahead and move the general manager, bring in a guy who's a stronger person that can keep that away from Shanahan to an extent, allow him more to be the coach. But this guy is going to be your figurehead and your evaluator, and rebuild your scouting department and kind of your whole front office. It's because that's really that's as far up the line as you can go
Yeah, and I
without
get
John and
that. I
Jet.
do. And I get that. I do. I don't understand why everyone just thinks that next year we're going to be Super Bowl contenders if we do that.
No, if they do that,
That's where I'm at.
no, and I'm with you. I think if they were to do that, you're talking about probably a 2-year process of
Yeah.
having to kind of you're restarting the whole process that they dealt with when Lynch and Shanahan came here, right? You're taking all those
Mm-hmm.
guys away and you're having to rebuild. And I'm with you. I'm with you. But they're kind of in that position already anyway. When you look at how many
Yeah.
how many players off of this team aren't coming back, or I shouldn't say aren't coming back because we don't know, but they're unrestricted free agent, or they're free agents at the end of the season. There's a lot. I think there's like 30 plus players
Yeah.
that are going to.
Yeah, I think on over the cap, they said they have like 32 guys left on the roster with like 26 million in cap space. Now that's going to be higher with Jimmy getting lopped off, and then probably, I mean, I'm going to be optimistic at D Ford retirement, so we don't get another vampire with 75 snaps from him again. So
Right.
things
Yeah.
like that. I mean, no, but it just, this team isn't. I've never seen a team take 2 different organizations, have different coaches and general managers, have success, and then stick dynamite under them and blow them up. I mean, it's somewhat amazing. What
That's
other
a really good
team has
point.
done that?
I like that. Yeah, no, that's a
So
really good point.
I mean, so that kind of tells you, it's like, is it the coach? Was it even bulky? That's kind of the funny thing. Was it even bulky, or was it just literally how they do things in Santa Clara? I mean, it's always tone at the top, right? There's a reason why companies are successful. And there's a
Yeah.
reason why the teams that you talk about, good drafters, the Saints, the Ravens. The Ravens were implemented by possibly the greatest tutor, the greatest Belichick disciple that nobody talks about was Ozzie Newsome. Like, he knew exactly how to build a team and have prolonged success, and he's passed that on, and that Ravens organization keeps that knowledge intact. Nobody leaves. They all stay together, and it's something that's really cool when you like dig into it and like talk about how good of an organization they've been. The Saints are the same way. No one abandoned ship. There's a reason why they don't do that. It's because organizations are dumpster fires. And I hate to tell it to Niner fans, but we're a dumpster fire. We're not. This is not the organization that you guys all grew up in. I'm the younger generation of it. I was born in '92, so. Yeah. The only time we've ever been good is literally 5 seasons of my life that I can remember.
Poor guy. Yeah, no, I hear you. In a lot of ways, I said this was my joke back in like 2018, maybe maybe even before the start of the 2019 season, was that the 49ers are Cleveland on the West Coast. They're the West Coast. Yeah. We're the West Coast Cleveland Browns, except for they call it the 49ers. They just
it just amazes me. I'm a season ticket holder too, so I go to the games, and this year I've been avidly screaming to get Jimmy off the field. Like, there's a play in the game where they're down 24-7, and it's a play action fake, and Sanu is running wide open on a crosser, and yes. I was watching it live during the game, and I threw a fit. My friend was like, "Why?" My friends, I there with 3 of my friends, like, "Why are you yelling?" I'm like, "Because he did it again." So sorry, I didn't mean to swear. But he did it again. He checked it down when he had a deep ball. I was like,
"That's okay.
I just can't take this anymore."
Yeah, no, I did the same thing in the press box.
You know exactly what play I'm talking about.
I do. I put it on. It's on my Twitter. It's on my Twitter. And you've got him screaming across the field, and he checks it down to Deebo Samuel. They'd have scored a touchdown on that drive, and I even said that on my tweet was, "Hey, they'd have scored a touchdown on this drive, but come on, he's wide open." And
but this is the reason why they're not good, though. It's that they pass up these big time plays, and they can't get themselves out of holes.
Yeah, it's a portion of the reason why they struggle, for sure.
But that's the thing with Jimmy that drives me nuts is that I think I've been watching your guys' film studies, and I start giggling to myself because I'm like, oh my God, if he just a little more anticipation. But he's not bad over the middle. He's been anticipating better and playing better, like as the season's gone on over the middle, at least the last 2 games. Give him a little bit of credit. But just it's amazing how when teams that know the Niners just sit in the middle of the field, they're going to play cover 2. Or they're going to play cover 3 with that safety down 7 yards of the line of scrimmage, basically like a linebacker, and the free safety like 9 yards. I mean, the Packers did that to like a lot of success. And I was just sitting there cracking up. I'm like, he can't figure it out.
Yeah, no, it's a. I understand the Jimmy Garoppolo has been the least of the 49ers problems this year. He really has.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean,
it's just easy to throw darts at him.
Yeah, well, he's the quarterback. The quarterback gets the blame, and he gets the praise. I think the 49ers defense has been this was kind of like one of my last pieces, and the last piece of the whole mailbag thing. But the whole quarterback situation has just taken so much of time for everybody, and has become such a talking point. But in reality, the problem with the team, if we get away from the front office stuff, and I got to jump and go, but I'll finish it off and let you have your say too,
no worries.
Real quick, was the defense hasn't been good. The defense has given up more points this year than they gave up last year. Everybody wants to blame Garoppolo for some of for the loss to Green Bay. Garoppolo put you in the end zone, and you had a lead with 37 seconds to go. Your defense couldn't hold up. Of the games that the 49ers lost kind of during this stretch, the Seattle game was the worst, right? Because they were the better team, and they should have had more than 7 points in that first quarter. They moved the ball up and down the field and kept shooting themselves in the foot. So the defense gives up a bunch of points. They can't hold leads, and your best players on offense screw up all the time. Deebo Samuel's a great wide receiver. I love the guy. I love watching him run with the ball in his hands, but he's dropped 10 passes this year already on only 81 targets. That's worse than he was as a rookie. His rookie year, he dropped 9 on 87. And I understand he's got the big yards, but that's because he's also got 80 plus targets in only 8 games. And then you have George Kittle, who, he fumbled the ball in a big situation on Sunday. He also had a ball bounce off of his face on a onside kick in Detroit week 1. And his touchdown on Sunday was his first touchdown in a year. And, he's been banged up quite a bit over the last year and a half. And then you have Brandon Ayuk, who's your other best player. And
No,
your
Isaac
head coach.
Bruce. He's Isaac Bruce. Remember, he's the next Isaac Bruce. That's why they loved him so much.
Hey, and when you watch him play, there's a lot of that in his game. I mean, he catches when they throw him the ball, he catches everything. Most of the time.
No, I'm not making fun of Brandon. I'm not making fun of Brandon. You got to get fun of Kyle Shanahan because they loved him so much, but yet they decided
I know.
Just
I got what you're saying. Yeah, I got you. And but at the same time, he catches a ball and he gets hit from behind and he fumbles it in the red zone. And they come into this season with an entire secondary of guys that don't play full seasons. I don't know what they thought was going to happen with Jimmy Ward, Jaquaski Tart, and Jason Verrett coming into the season. Did they think that Raheem Mostert was going to last 17 games when he hasn't even made it through 16 games, other than when he was only playing special teams? So the construction of the roster has been bad. They caught every break in the book in 2019, and that's not going to happen again. That's the problem.
Yeah, the
I'll let you finish it off. I got to get off.
Oh, yeah, real quick. No, and Jack, I completely agree with you on a lot of these points. I mean, the defense is trash, but here's one thing I will talk about. In 2019, I think it's a fun little film study. Go back and look at those first 8 games, what quarterbacks we played. And that's why.
Oh, yeah.
No.
100%. Yep. I talk about that all the time. I just had it that last week, I think it was, or whatever. I agree with you. That's what I'm saying. They got lucky. They got Jameis Winston. They got Andy Dalton, who isn't as bad as, Jameis Winston, but then they don't even get Ben Roethlisberger. They get Mason Rudolph. They get some dude, I don't even remember his name, from Carolina. They get Baker
was
Mayfield.
The best one. Baker and Goff were the best ones.
Yeah, exactly. And they start off 8-0, so that builds everything up, and then they go 5-3 down the stretch, and then they get home field advantage, and then they get another break because Minnesota beats New Orleans. So instead of getting New Orleans week 1 or week 2 in the playoffs, now they get a Minnesota team coming off of a short week because Minnesota played on Sunday in New Orleans, and now the game's on Saturday, so they have a short week after playing in New Orleans. Again, scheduling break there, and then they get a team that they'd already blown out once.
They owned the Packers that year. They owned them. Yeah,
because their defense was way too good. But yeah, from an offense, that season set up so perfectly for them, and they didn't stink that year or anything like that. I mean, they had a good team.
Oh no, they were a good team.
The defense was dominant, but if they had to play Ben Roethlisberger and Cam Newton, those games might have turned out a little bit different. And we're seeing that. That's kind of been the case throughout Jimmy Garoppolo's career too. The teams when they've played against teams with good quarterbacks, they lose. When they play against teams with bad quarterbacks, they usually win. And we're kind of seeing that play out a little bit right now.
Oh, for sure. All right, Jack. Well, anyway, thanks for having me on tonight. I'll definitely become a regular for you. Yeah,
definitely do. I like talking to you. You're a knowledgeable guy. I can tell that from our first conversation, so I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, I know. I've been the diehard of this team my whole life. I know way too much, and anyway, have a good one, man. Have a good night.
You too. Take care. All right. So that's going to be the show for tonight. Let me get this off of my face so that you can, unfortunately, have to look at me. But I just want to say thanks for everybody who joined. Those of you that called in, some great calls, a lot of fun comments on the side. Just want to say thanks. If you aren't already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. Hit the like button, comment, do all those kind of fun things that you do on YouTube. And I just want to put this one up just because it's nice, and I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit. But I want to say thanks to Alley-Oop. He says that he appreciates my knowledge. He's been a 49er fan since the late 80s, but he's from New Zealand, which is, absolutely a rugby mad country there with the New Zealand All Blacks. They're they are the or I'm not sure if they still are, but at one point they were the equivalent of the 49ers when it comes to rugby, absolutely dominant. And doesn't completely see the whole pictures, but I really appreciate that, alley oops. And yeah, I'm a full-time 49er fan. I'm way too old to tell you how old I am, but a lot of watching 49er football throughout the 80s and so on. So just thanks for everybody for joining. And like I said, like, subscribe, and comment. Have a great night. And I will be back tomorrow with Grant. I'm not sure what time, but we're going to be on this channel with the offensive film breakdown from Sunday's game. So make sure you tune in, and we'll be back at you soon. Have a great day, everybody. Great night. Thank you.